Hi everyone, it's Jason here from Skeptic Smash-Talk. Thanks for downloading this portion of Extras. These short recordings are either breaking or evolving stories, or stories that didn't fit into the main show. You can look out for the main full-length show that's available and always free for everybody to download or stream, with each new show released late on Monday evenings UK time. So I guess this was the big impending news that I was waiting for the outcome of before I got too caught up in the game of politics for this week's main show, as the decisions on this have wide-ranging implications. And of course, I'm talking about the Trident decision. So what is Trident and what does this all mean? Well, to give what we're talking about its full title, it's the Trident nuclear weapon system, which consists of the Trident II, which is a submarine-launched ballistic missile and a thermonuclear warhead, and the launch platform, the submarine. And so each of these boats carry 8 missiles and 40 warheads each. In total, the UK have 58 missiles, and here's a fun fact: the UK leases these missiles. Now, I'm sure there's a brilliant economic benefit for a nuclear world power to lease rather than purchase its arsenal. I just don't know what that is. Anyway, at the moment, the Ministry of Defence has 4 boats capable of this mission, with at least one submarine always on patrol. And this means one boat can be in maintenance and the other 2 can be used for training. Or let's be real, on standby. Now, during patrols, the submarines are required to remain silent and are only allowed to break radio silence in an emergency only. They have a 1,000-metre long aerial, that's 1 kilometre for those playing at home, and this trails behind the submarine to pick up any incoming messages. Now, most of the crew, I'm told, never actually know where they are or where they have been. And before you make the jokes about the UK Navy never knowing where they are, just make the jokes. Anyway, so there you have it. All you need to know about the UK's nuclear capability. So what's this mean for Parliament? Well, in a fairly substantial majority vote, MPs agreed to continue, or to be technically correct, renew the UK's nuclear deterrent system. Not all agreed. In fact, of the 117 MPs that opposed the motion, 58 of them were the Parliament's Scottish MPs, 58 of the 59 Scottish MPs. And I can hear you ask, who cares what 58 of the 59 wildlings think about the UK's nuclear capability? Well, I'm glad you asked. The sub-base, and therefore the missiles, and the warheads, and the submarines, and the sailors are all located in Scotland. And the part of the reason I needed to hold off to see what happened with the vote, I was fairly certain that this would be the result, but there have been more than a few surprises recently, so I wasn't counting any of my 2-headed chickens. Were a few surprises, especially from T-Dog, and I have to give her credit where it's due. When she was asked would she ever cry havoc and let slip the dogs of war, her answer was outstandingly simple. Have a listen.
Let me congratulate the Prime Minister on her new role. So can we cut to the chase? Is she personally prepared to authorise a nuclear strike that could kill 100,000 innocent men, women and children?
Yes. And I have to say to the honourable gentleman, the whole point of a deterrent is that our enemies need to know that we would be prepared.
So, quite simple, really. And I'll say it again, as much as it hurts, credit where it's due. As far as I can tell, T-Dog is the first Prime Minister of the United Kingdom to actually answer that question. But let's return to Scotland for a moment. Now, as you will recall from episode 17, the wildlings are pissed off at the Southerners and will most likely want to go to a second referendum for independence. T-Dog last week said that they won't. Unfortunately, Nicola, Queen of Scots, told everybody on the Andrew Marr show over the weekend that they probably will do so early next year. All they really needed was a little bit more poking from the English to make sure that the result went the direction the Scots wanted to go, and that was their mistake last time. Now, in the debate on Monday, the SNP's Angus Robinson, and for those outside of the UK, I'll explain this. He's the SNP party leader in the House of Commons, not Nicola, Queen of Scots. Angus called Trident an immoral, obscene and redundant weapon system and said the Scottish people were being ignored by the UK government. And he said that the results exacerbate the democratic deficit in Scotland, coming just weeks after the Scottish voters overwhelmingly backed membership of the EU but were outvoted by those in England and Wales. Following this vote, the SNP have called for the withdrawal of nuclear weapons from Scotland, and Mr Robinson said in a statement, the UK government must respect Scotland's clear decision against Trident and remove these nuclear weapons of mass destruction from the Clyde. He said it would be democratically unacceptable if in the face of this clear opposition, the UK government were to impose nuclear weapons against Scotland's wishes. So there it is in a nutshell, and it looks like the Scots have got the UK by its nutshells. Basically, they are saying, get your nukes out of our country or we'll get our country out of you. And we won't pretend that it's not about the bombs. They'll find another reason, but for them, right now, the timing couldn't be better. So what of our comrades in the Labour Party? Well, in the main show, I touched on the leadership battle in the Labour Party. Well, the Trident decision, being what this actually means for the UK, has split, or to be fair, reinforced a split in the party. To the point, the Labour Party is in tatters, and its current leader, Obi-Wan Kenobi, is vehemently against any type of armed conflict. So to say that he's anti-nukes is like asking, does Melania Trump like to recite the collective works of Michelle Obama? So his detractors are obviously going to use Trident as fodder. But when you have backbenchers like John Woodcock telling the House in no uncertain terms, whatever you hear from these frontbenchers later, the Labour Party's position is to maintain the permanent at-sea deterrent. Corbyn had hardly got any words in before he had to give over to one of his own party. And I should say, as much as people are jumping on me now for being a Corbynite, I can assure you I am 100% neutral in all politics at the moment. So no matter what your views are, it doesn't matter. When the opposition, or the Parliament's opposition's backbench, are telling the whole House that the party does not agree with certain members of its front bench, well, they are no longer in opposition. To use a doctrine from the Cold War, and the analogy is very apt, the party have now implemented, without knowing it, mutually agreed destruction, in that we are soon to see the complete annihilation of all sides of the party. And this opens up another big-ass can of worms, not only for the Labour Party, but for the kingdom and its democracy. A poll released on Tuesday shows that in a leadership contest, Corbyn will not only win, but he will win by a margin on first preference alone, better than 50% of the vote. So for those doing the math at home, if he has better than 50% of the vote, that means he is greater than the sum of the rest of the votes. Now, as it stands, there's only him and one other left in the poll, but on Tuesday when this was done, there were more. And this was taken from a poll of voters that had just joined the party before the bullshit new members' £25 surcharge. So why is this a problem? Well, as I guess it's the same all around the world, we have areas in the UK that no matter what else is happening, the people always vote the same. And it's not for the person, but for the party. You've heard of this before. It's called safe seats. And I guess in some respect, this is not a bad thing. For example, as a party, you need to make sure that your key players are in safe seats just in case you win the election. It's no good putting the pig fucker in the Labour stronghold for shits and giggles, and then he ends up losing. The problem arises when you combine nearly 60% of all seats in the Parliament at the moment are considered to be safe seats, and we have voter apathy. Then toss in a little bit of a thing called voter revenge. This is where the swing voters are fed up with the establishment, or, as it is now, the reason that T-Dog will not call a general election, the disgruntled masses that have just figured out that they've been fed a plate full of political bullshit for too long. Okay, back to the Labor Party. There's a massive divide, not only between the MPs, but also in the membership. The mums and dads of families, the young people, the students, the workers, the unemployed, the older people. Anyone, in their words, with an interest in building a better Britain. So long as they have the £25 fee, that is. But just as I said, more than half of them are ready to back Obi-Wan Kenobi, and the rest are scattered. But does all this give the party a leader? It doesn't give him support in the House of Commons, or the numbers in the House if they all decide to fuck off and reform a new Labour, or a Labour 2.1. And if that happens, the chances of the voters and the party members' allegiance happening to be aligned to match their local MP's choice of direction, this has to be close to zero. So what does a voter do if he wants to support Corbyn, but his local MP is a splitter? Normally, like I said, people vote for the party, not the person. But on such a grand scale, who knows what will happen? I mean, eventually it will all balance out, right? But in the meantime, add this mess to the big plate of shit that the voters have had to eat this year, and they will just turn elsewhere. It will be a political spring. Now, just to wrap up, on the main show this week, I talked about the surge in membership in the party this past year. Well, the extra 130,000 new members that joined this year have some new comrades. In the past 48 hours, 185,000 new members have joined. And guess what? They all paid the extra 25 quid. And apparently, and this is just apparently, the majority of them are backing Corbyn. And I don't think this race is going to be anything like the Tory bloodbath of just a few weeks ago, partially as it's a two-man race, and literally a two-man race as Angela Eagle has dropped out. But I think it's fair to say that both contenders are above the behaviour that we saw from our Conservative betters these last few weeks. So, well, let's leave this episode there. What I think it's fair to say is no matter what happens, it's going to be far from boring. I hope you enjoyed listening to this shortened extras version of Skeptic Smash-Talk. Don't forget to look out for the main show, which is normally uploaded to SoundCloud each Monday evening UK time, which means it will be available on all other platforms ready for your commute on Tuesday. If you want to keep in touch, you can follow and like the show on all the social networks that allow following and liking, or if you prefer to just stalk me, you can get all the information you need at skepticsmashtalk.com. If you did in fact enjoy this show, please take a moment to leave a review and the appropriate number of stars on iTunes, where you can also find past and future episodes. Better still, if you really enjoyed the show, feel free to post the links and share all the information with all of your friends on your own social networks. So until next time, I'm your host Jason Jones, and this has been a shortened version of Skeptic Smash-Talk.